question is, what is the definition of ono that fits onos momen, onos dvorim, and Rashi's talking about Eitz Shena Hagenis. What do they all have in common? So I found Rav Shamshon Furl here says this. He says ono means taking advantage of. In onos momen, obviously you're taking advantage of the fact that the person doesn't realize that you're overcharging him. In onos dvorim, you're taking advantage of the fact that when you make an accusation at somebody, as much as he ever defends himself, the accusation has been made, and it sticks. And people will never relate to him the same. He himself will never feel the same. You know, when you're accused of something, it just doesn't feel the same. And that's precisely what Eitz Shena again is. You give someone bad advice, he's unsuspecting, he's trusting of you. And here you are giving him advice that's not for his good, but for yours. We find other cases of onos dvarim that fit perfectly into this, making fun of somebody. So, for example, sending him, he's looking for a particular product, and you send him to a place that doesn't sell it. Other Rishonim learned that the case was you're making fun of the guy that you're sending him to. Now this is all ono. Ono means taking advantage of somebody else's weak position. That's all of ono. Onos momen, onos dvorim. That's what ono is all about. And for that it says v'yaresa melokecha, especially in the case of Eitz Shena Hagenis, but everything else also, you can always claim to be innocent. You can always pretend to be innocent. But the fact of the matter is that you are taking advantage of someone else, and even if only Hashem knows it, that's what counts. In the lav of Lo Selech Rochil Ba'amecha, Yisrael Lashon Hara, we find Unkelis, and then Rashi and the Ramban. They're all talking about not joining a certain subculture, a subculture of the, what should I say, the gossip culture. The Torah uses the word rachil. It's a borrowed term. You know, we talk about rachilus all the time. We now gave it something of a meaning of its own, where the truth of the matter is that rachil means not to walk around in a traveling salesman's manner, a traveling salesman-like manner among your people. And it's a Torah poking fun at the gossip monger, as Art Scroll translates it, this person who markets all sorts of juicy information that everyone's interested in. L'selech rachel ba'amecha means don't enjoy gossip. Don't identify with it. Don't join that subculture. That's not what a Yid is supposed to be like. We're above all of that. You know, Kol Yisrael has been hit by many different scandals over the past couple of years, so one hit the Eish family as well. Too many people know, too many people are talking, and too many people are saying too many things that they shouldn't be saying. I want to just first begin by saying that this should not be a subject for conversation, just because it's exciting. It's exciting. It's the stuff that the journalists make a living off. There's something in us. There's this Yetzer Hara for gossip. There's this Yetzer Hara for this kind of stuff. I've heard of situations where people are outright rude, trying to guess, who another party is. Is it this one? Is it that one? Actually asking people, ridiculous and lowly. Lowly, that's beneath us. This situation is painful. Anyone in need of any kind of support or help, of course, should seek it. But this is not that one speaks about out of interest. I'm saying this as a Hakdama. The whole story is very painful. On the one hand, one shouldn't talk about it. On the other hand, we can't avoid talking about it. Understand what's l'toeles, what's important, what's necessary, has to be done, and what isn't,
now, nephew,
get it off the agenda. Get it off the agenda. Get it off the agenda. It's not what you want to talk about. You don't need to know any information. In terms of what's on the minds of people that were affected by it, is here we are again. Another mashpia, another makarev that fell into a situation he shouldn't have been in. Since it's one of ours, on the one hand, we can't help but feel for the person. We don't know what the future will bring. His life was being mashpia, and that avenue was no longer open to him. Klal Yisrael does not accept it, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. And I think a point has to be made whenever there's a pirza. One has to repair the pirza. We're talking one of our own, a person that we respect and a person that we feel for, and know that the situation must have been such where it drove him to do things he doesn't do. But bottom line, the halacha of Yeharig Va'al Yavra means better dead than doing this. Yeharig Va'al Yavra means better dead. Better living any kind of painful life that one can describe. This is not an option. This is not an option. It has to be very clear. I want to add a second point, which is so important that all of us really take seriously. And that is, while everyone has responsibility for himself, for his olam hazeh, for his olam haba, and it's just incredible how the Yetzer Hara can get a person to destroy his olam hazeh and olam haba. Literally destroy destroy everything, destroy his family, destroy his reputation, destroy his parnasa, destroy everything in this world that he wants to do. And olam haba, yeah, we believe in tshuva, but it's a long uphill battle. Tshuva is not an easy thing. We've got to appreciate that aside from our own responsibility for our own olam hazeh and our own olam haba, where we've got to maintain our sanity and never be driven to do something to destroy ourselves and tell ourselves no one will ever know. Aside from all of that, the responsibility of a mashpia. Responsibility of a mashpia. This is true of machanchim. This is true of rabbonim. This is true of makarvim. As a mashpia, people's kesher to the Creator, people's kesher to the Rebbeinu Shalom, relies heavily on your integrity. It's not just that you slip and perhaps disappoint people. Chas v'sholom, but who knows? Who knows how this is going to affect people? Any mashpia has to appreciate that he has this added responsibility. People's kesher to the Rebbeinu Shalom, their confidence in the amitius of Hashem, their confidence in the whole system, their confidence in Yiddishkeit being the way to live, is based on our integrity. And anything that can possibly be seen as a lack of integrity, Certainly an outright lack of integrity. Like chas v'shalom, what it can do to others. And that's so much worse than losing one's own olam hazen, one's own olam haba. We appreciate what it's like when you're mezaka the rabbin. Oy, chas v'shalom, to be machshel the rabbin. We can't afford to slip. You feel you're in a situation of weakness. You feel that you're going through something difficult and you're vulnerable. Get yourself a chavrusa. Get yourself someone that you can talk to. Get yourself someone that can hold your hand through the process to make sure you don't slip. Someone that can get you out of it. Don't allow yourself to fall under any circumstances. This is not a situation where one's position was really what was responsible for what happened. This is much more a case where one's position gives him so much more responsibility for not falling when the going's rough. Aside from that, I think it's very, 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 very necessary that we also don't put ourselves in situations that can offer an isoyim. It's also klapi that tzibur, we have to protect ourselves this way, but we also have to take care of ourselves. I will reiterate. I've brought this up before on different occasions. I don't see any heter for men being makar of women. This has nothing to do with this case. But I see no heter for men being makar of women. Kiruv is kiruv. Kiruv is closeness. Kiruv is developing. We know it's developing a personal relationship with people. That's how you're makar is. It is totally improper for a man to be makar of a woman. Kiruv organizations, for budgetary reasons, will compromise on tznius. They can't afford to hire wives. They can't afford to hire makarvels. So let the man be makar of everybody. No. There's no room for it in your budget. So you don't have a budget. You're done. So you can't. That means you haven't raised your money to keep your operation going. There is no room for compromise on this. This is true in kiruv. Certainly, in terms of counseling, whether on a professional level or as a clergyman, rabbinical counseling, a man should not be counseling a woman. There are enough women therapists around, good ones for women. They're much better with women anyway. It is totally unacceptable. Even though one can say, what do you mean? An umin is torid naso. Depends what umnis you're in. Time and again, some of the finest from therapists have been accused. Like I started off, an accusation doesn't necessarily mean it happened. But once the accusation is made, it's just not the same. It'll never be the same. I don't know if they did anything, but why put yourself in such a position? Whether or not something's going to happen, why do you need someone accusing you? But believe me, there's also plenty of room for something to happen. I see no justification for it. I've spoken to many professionals. I've shared with them my feelings. I can't say they've all agreed, but most agree. Most agree that it is not simple. You do develop a personal relationship with your clients, even though it's a professional personal one. When the Yetzer Hara is involved, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to maintain boundaries long term without ever slipping. Men can teach a class of women. A man can teach a mixed group. A man can answer questions after class so long as everybody is still around. When beginners come up and want to talk, you have to make sure to meet them in a public place. You certainly don't want to put them off and send them away. But when you find that there's somebody that already is coming on a regular basis, or someone that's already on their way and they really need some personal involvement, a real relationship here, you have to pass them on to the Makarevis. Certainly no counseling. If ever there's a need to meet with a woman, it should be in the presence of one's wife or in an office with lots of people around. And if you're in a private room with the room open and people can see in, if they need privacy, well, I'm afraid it can't be done. As far as men and women working together, the guidelines have to be very clear. The relationship should be professional only, not personal. I know you can call it rude. You can say it's insensitive. You're allowed to be polite, but not personal. You don't share what's going on in your personal life with a co-worker of a different gender. It's totally wrong. And you have to make guidelines. A common one is not using first names. I understand it's not set in stone. There are times that it's terribly awkward. But as a rule, that's the better way to go. It's hard to give rules that apply all over since people are all over the world and there are some things that are done and some things that are not done. But generally speaking, for a man to be driving a woman coworker around with just the two of them in the car, it's not really proper. I can't say absolutely usher. Walking together in the street, not really proper. Can I say it's usher? No. In Yerushalayim, you can't get away with it. Phone calls, yeah, you can call a coworker. Even that, there should be some kind of guidelines of how late at night that can be. After a certain point, it's not proper. We have to make strong guidelines. And then I'll go back to what I mentioned before, and that is that everybody has to feel that there's someone they can go to when they feel they're slipping. Generally speaking, we don't lose our brains immediately. It's a gradual process. And if you realize that things are not what they were, talk to somebody. Talk to somebody, catch yourself before you get to the Sha'ol Tachtis. You know, people ask, what do you do with the Torah of people who taught and then it turns out that they were involved in something they shouldn't have been? So, you know, unfortunately, these sugyas have become something that I'm becoming proficient in. Davonenu, having to deal with them quite often, but I am a chalik between a person who takes advantage of his position, a predator who takes advantage of his position. He's rotten to the core. His Torah was a fraud. His hashpah was not for the sake of helping people. His hashpah was for the sake of gaining access to people. Puzzle treif, don't say a word over in his name. Not so. When you're dealing with someone who is basically a good person and was not Obed ben Isayin, it's terribly painful. It's terribly disappointing. But it was not like he used his Torah for that. Al todnis chavercha. To go say that everything you ever heard from him was Pasal Treif, Chas v'Shalom. Chas v'Shalom. I'm not in any way trying to make a riftin in this absolute conviction that what's osir is osir and is osir. That anything to do with arayas, that lo sikravu legalas erev is yoharig val yavra, better dead. There's no room for compromise. Chas v'Shalom. At the same time, on a personal level, we can understand that there are difficult situations. We would not passel a mafreya, everything good you've heard from the person. Whether it's a student, whether it's a friend, whether it's a colleague. We're all embarrassed. We all feel terrible. And we all have to be mischazik and get back into ourselves the kind of responsibility that a mashpia carries. And also, chazer, just how powerful the Yetzer Hara can be. How good, rational human beings can destroy themselves, can destroy everything they've got in this world and the next. They can destroy themselves. For what? Someone made a decision, it's worth it. Don't ever underestimate the power of the Yetzer Hara. Intelligent human beings can make the most unintelligent decisions. Beware. Got to be mischazik in our Yerushalayim. All of us, I think, as a family, we have to be mischazik in Yerushalayim. Make sure that we recognize the power of the Yetzer and how there is just no room for compromise. There's no room to be makel in anything that can lead to Yisurim Chamurim. Chvar Hashem should save us all. And once again, I hope I said all that was necessary, and I hope I didn't say too much.